Hi, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon. I'm Nidhi from Paybee. So nice to meet you all today. Thank you for spending your, start your week with us. We're very excited about this event. Paybee, we've been working on a lot on virtual events, and production is especially an interesting topic because it relates so closely to the work we do. Our guest speaker today is Paul Mathieu. He's run a lot of events for our clients, and we've been in close touch with him, and we've seen him in action, and he's pretty fantastic at what he does. He's based in Southern California, in Santa Barbara. From what he's told me, he's spent over 20 years in this industry, doing television work, doing films, doing concerts and film festivals, and I guess he has been doing live streaming before it was a thing and before Corona came along. He's also spent time in West Germany, and he has twins who are a year old. And with those, I have two kids of my own. And with him having twins who are a year old, I don't know how he does everything he does. So please join me in welcoming Paul. Hi, Paul.
Dee, you're too kind. Thank you. Greetings from Santa Barbara, California. We serve pretty much Bay Area down to Orange County, and we're very excited to chat with everyone on Paybee today about some best practices with live streaming and experiences I've had, not just during this pandemic, but obviously in the years prior, and how all the technology and the platforms have evolved.
That's great. So our format today, Paul, walk us through what you had in mind. I know there's some topics that we discussed that might be interesting for our audience. We've kind of thought about what, questions people have been asking us. They've been asking Paul, and focus on a few things. So Paul will walk us through. In the meantime, if you all have questions, feel free to post them in the chat, and we'll kind of incorporate them during the talk or maybe right after as well. So
wonderful. Yeah, so we have a little slideshow that we're going to toss from here. Oh, look at that. This is good that the capabilities actually work for streaming professionals, right? So thanks. Apta's in the background. I know Apta with Paybee. I'd like to give a shout out now. She's switching for us. So this is very odd where I'm usually in that seat, except I'm in the presenting seat. So that's a lot of fun for me today. So welcome again. I think we know what's going on here. Here's some hot topics we created today. We're going to go through 3 categories. And of course, Nidhi may pop in with some questions, and we'll take some questions at the end. So production hardware, software. I know this is going to be a little technical, but I'm just going to give you a quick overview based on the availabilities that you may have for your event, okay? Pre-recorded videos, we're going to talk about some best practices because that is very commonly asked. And I would say there's not a show I haven't done that hasn't had some pre-recorded element. And we'll talk about that ratio, and we'll talk about best practices for rehearsals. Also a nuanced topic because we're going to go through on-site, hybrid, and all fully remote rehearsals. So we've had to adapt for COVID, of course. So away we go. Hire a professional live stream crew. Not just unlike myself, there's many operators out there, both big and small, or do it yourself. So this is just me at the Santa Barbara Film Festival. 2 years ago, pre-pandemic, this year, the Santa Barbara International Film Festival is going live instead, but we've always maintained some component of live stream with a live event. So we'll certainly get into that. Pros and cons, here we go. What can you do with a live stream nowadays? On the front end, it's a little self-explanatory, but think about this. We can have live cameras like we have now. This is just a webcam on an iMac, okay? But we have a lot of capabilities. We have remote guests. We can do graphics, playback, incorporate websites. And these are some of the popular platforms that you as an organization can use, but certainly these are a little more applicable to a professional streamer, such as Livestream Studio, my platform of choice, vMix, very popular, only on the PC, Windows platform. Wirecast is old school. I started with them 10 years ago. They're wonderful. TriCaster is a big company. You'll see in broadcast, we did Democratic National Convention was via TriCast system. And Blackmagic Design, their ATEM line, a very popular line of hardware. for both software and hardware streaming. So I'm not going to go into the weeds about explaining the feature of these. It's a little technical, but I just want you to be aware these are some common platforms that a professional might bring. But watch that list, or we can certainly get it out to you later. These are platforms you can learn yourself, thanks to YouTube, right? Same with remote guest platforms. I would argue that I think, with few exceptions, certainly this past year during the pandemic, all my clients have had remote guests. We're remote guests right now, right? We're actually on StreamYard, the second choice down. StreamYard's kind of unique. We'll talk about it a few times. It's kind of preferred platform. It integrates very well with Paybee's backend, but so don't all these other platforms I have listed. Well, Zoom's a catch. We do a lot of Zoom webinars, webinar versus meeting. I'm sure you've all been locked in your house on the meetings with everyone up in the little gallery squares, right? Zoom webinar, if you haven't used it before, oh, please go ahead.
About that about Zoom, Paul. So again, our audience is mostly, today's audience is mostly nonprofits. We have auctioneers, we have producers. Yeah. So in this context, what kind of results are you seeing on Zoom? Right? Because again, everybody has it, so it's great because yes, there's no, no tools extra required or anything. But from fundraising perspective, have you seen it be effective?
Great question. Zoom is the 100-pound gorilla, where it's very common and most people know how to use it, but it actually does not lend itself to be a great production platform for both live stream shows or especially for fundraisers. It doesn't integrate well, unfortunately. You got to the end point, but that's good. It doesn't integrate well into Paybee. Although Zoom does have the option to stream to Facebook Live and YouTube and such, it's very limited what you can do from switching different sources, from cameras to graphics to pre-recorded videos. But I do mention it because it is a common platform, and we often bring in remote guests into another system like Livestream Studio, StreamYard, you see the second choice, and then send it on to Paybee, which we're going to cover. We're going to talk about how to get your stream into Paybee. It's super easy. Again, but this is such a popular, needed thing because most of your talent may not be with you on site, physically in your office in a building, okay? Skype, I think most people are familiar with Skype, very similar to Zoom. vMix call, you saw from the last screen, that's a production switcher. It also has remote guests, and so does live stream. So that was from these platforms here. You saw they have integrated guests. So again, we're on StreamYard, and I'm going to go a little heavier into that in a moment because it's a nice, easy to use for the DIY people. Okay, I use it too. I talked about this integrating donation tools. Okay, now we all know Paybee has great integration because that's what it's set up to do. But traditionally, we'd use such items as a PayPal button, right? A QR scan, those little QR codes in the center there. They are associated with companies that allow your clients to hook their mobile phone or similar, and it links with the website. Similar to a hyperlink, I just threw up a generic one. This says, click here to donate now. These all rely on third-party services, including PayPal. I've had a lot of clients pre-COVID use these tools. I'm much favoring an integrated solution like Paybee that handles the back end now, because I don't like the experience where someone's in your show and they have to leave. They have to link away to get to, or go on a separate device to donate, okay? But remember, these are options, and I've seen for my clients that do a show on a dedicated website where they may port in Vimeo or YouTube, they'll put a link or the donate button. So Nidhi, can you comment on that anymore? Because I know we added this slide a little bit at the end of the weekend.
Yes, so here my idea was just to give our audience options. So yes, this is being run. I know I'm from Paybee. And again, I want to thank you, Paul, for mentioning Paybee. I know we haven't asked you to do that, and you're talking out of experience. So thank you for doing that.
No, you're welcome. No, we're going to comparison. There's no. Integration is very important. Integration is very important. That's the most thing I want to drive home today. Whatever platform you pick, you're going to have to think ahead about these donation tools. Understanding that if you're an organization that's going to do a fundraiser, and remember, exclusively, you don't have to do just fundraisers on Paybee and other platforms, but this is something you want to reverse engineer from the very beginning, because you know why? That's the purpose of your fundraiser, is to raise tools. So this is a mission critical element. The front end's fun. The front end is the town and the videos and the slides, but this gets to the heart of what you're doing as an organization.
And you're right, a lot of organizations keep this pending to the very end, right? Hey, yeah, by the way, we also need to process money. And again, that beats the whole purpose, because it is primarily a fundraising event, right? All the fancy stuff, yes, it's nice to have, but this is a need to have. So yes, definitely helps to think through the fundraising portions early on.
Get to A to B to C. All right, here's some of the fun part. Webcams versus professional cameras. What level production do I really need? That's a question I have to answer daily when I'm setting up a client. Why would they be coming to a professional technical director like myself and bringing in bigger cameras? These are even some of the medium-sized ones you see over my corner. We'll do a little demo. We'll take a look at what that looks like in just a moment. Consider maybe it's an obvious answer, but a premium look. A lot of you may need a premium look, and it may be expected from your donors. Your donors may be expecting a more broadcast look as opposed to grainy webcams on a laptop. Not saying one is, not judging on what level you go, but certainly some of your donors will demand that when they're doing a title sponsorship for you, right? This particular webcam, I'm actually very happy. I'm on a brand new iMac 5K, so it does have a 1080p camera, which is a little better than most. But we can go into some different options in just a moment here. Sorry, I just answered my own question there. Webcams can look decent in good lights, and they're ubiquitous, right? So everyone's got them. That's wonderful. That's good for your remote guests. But there's something much more important going on than the video single, though. And you might have guessed it. It's audio. Audio is so mission critical. You need good audio. Your audience has to hear. They'll excuse a video single that maybe gets a little fuzzy or maybe glitches in and out because of the internet. But if they can't hear it and if it's out of sync, you've got a big problem for the show. We spend a lot of time getting the audio right. For example, here's some options. If you're hiring a professional, you see in the top bullet point there, traditional broadcast audio, they're going to bring in lavalier mics like I'm wearing, which actually I'm not using right now. We'll turn that on in a moment. It's clipped to my shirt here. The booms that hang down for interview, you see those in the movies. If you have a podium, they're going to bring nice gooseneck podium mics, the standard. Computer options, though, is something you might be using more, especially with your remote guest. Noticed in my right ear, I'm wearing a Apple AirPod, Bluetooth mic, right? It doesn't have to be Apple brand. Tons of brands. There's a billion brands that make them, some better than the others, but don't get caught up on that. The advantage of using these is that this is a microphone and my earpiece, so I can hear the show and I can talk at the same time. And then, of course, you get the USB mics. You'll see podcasters and vloggers on YouTube using. Those are relatively affordable. I would say, I don't know, $50, $100, $200 on the top end, okay? Voiceover options, phones versus pro mics. Again, if you're hiring a professional to help you pre-produce some videos and you need a really good voiceover, they certainly should provide that for you. I've also found that, oh, my phone's not in the room, thankfully. iPhones or Android phones in a very quiet space with the mic held nice close, they do a great job for voiceover options. So just know that you have options and you don't have to run out and go buy expensive gear. Okay, that's my point there. Virtual cameras, we're kind of coming to the back end of some of the technical part. Don't worry, you don't need to take notes. I'm just trying to give you some options, because if you are doing a fundraising, these will all be things you're going to have to decide. So it's good you see them now, right? Virtual camera. So what is a virtual camera? It's pretty easy. This camera is a built-in camera, right? A virtual camera is one we plug into a software platform, like this Sony camcorder over my shoulder. So let's do that now. Let's take a look. And you can see in this photo to the right, someone has a digital SLR hooked up to an HDMI camera they're bringing in, and they're probably bringing it in to one of those devices that are on the left side of the screen from Camlink. There's plenty of options on the market. They're all $50, $100, $200 range. This is a way you can get professional cameras, one or multiple cameras through a switcher. Okay, so let's do that now. I'm going to flip around. And this is...
Can we have all go full screen so we can see the quality difference?
Yeah, hopefully there is a quality difference if I arrange it right here. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to switch to audio. So stand by, everyone. Wonderful. Well, let's see how I've done here. All right. Not manning the camera and exposure aside, this is what a 4K Sony looks like, with a relatively nice lavalier mic, wireless lavalier mic, which I'm wearing on my hip right now. These are the type of tools a professional would bring into the mix, be it multiple cameras such as this or a single camera. You get the benefits of having someone operate it, zoom controls, all the manual controls and features that a pro would bring. So certainly something to consider when you start to shop around, or if you're going to DIY, you might already have a digital SLR or other systems that you can hook up via the Camlink device into the back of this iMac over my shoulder. So that's what a virtual camera is. I just want to bring that up to let everyone know you have options. You're not just stuck with the webcams built into iPhones, iMacs, PCs, and Androids.
Yeah, I could see the difference. Even an amateur like me, I could see the quality difference, and I could hear the audio.
Lighted. I apologize, everyone. It was a busy morning with twin boys, but we're fine folks today. Okay, this is the important part. This is something you're going to have to know when you're using a platform like Paybee or any other platform. You've got to get your show to the web. Okay. My best practice, and there are a lot of options out there. I'm a YouTuber, meaning I don't have a YouTube show, but I like to use the YouTube platform for free, mind you, to bring the stream to your audience. In the case of Paybee.io, they do have several options that you can port in. My favorite one is YouTube because of the lesser latency. When I say latency, that's the delay. So what do I mean by delay? Well, there's two things going on here. There's us in the real world, and there's a couple seconds later when you're actually seeing us. So why does that matter? Just say you're having a fundraiser that has a live MC and or auctioneer, right? The back end of Paybee, the auction works in near real time, in milliseconds across the web, but your auctioneer is delayed by a couple seconds, and that matters, and that takes rehearsal and practice, and they have to be aware. So as we know, you may get to bid item number 5, gone is actually almost 4 seconds later when you're using YouTube. Vimeo, I also like the platform, but the latency is quite more significant, upwards of 20 seconds. There's tips and tricks to lower that, but let's just use that as a frame. So if you have a live auctioneer, I think you might be best to use YouTube to get the signal to Paybee. Or if you chose another platform, that's something that you want to take into consideration. If your show doesn't have an auctioneer or any call and response live interaction with your audience, well, it's kind of a moot point. Just remember the time difference, which could be up to 20 seconds, okay? I just added a last point I thought of yesterday. A question I get all the time is,
should we multi-stream to Facebook Live or some other thing where else? Multi-stream is just meaning more than one stream. About a year ago, that was hot. It was hot to send your event to YouTube and Facebook and Twitch and LinkedIn and everything. But we found that very, very confusing for your audience, organizationally, and where do I view the event? I have a rule of two, pick two, and preferably one platform. So that's why I put that point in. And after just sent in a question, maybe would you like to, should we hit that question since we're on topic?
Sure, go for it.
Yeah. Erica, hey Erica. Erica asked, does StreamYard work to live stream to both Facebook and YouTube at the same time? And yes, it does. You can do up to 5 destination with the StreamYard platform. That's it. Hope that answers the question. I can go into that at length towards the end of the Q&A.
Yeah, I want to add a different point to this, right? So yes, there is a lot of value in gathering your entire community in one place, right? Because with everybody being remote, you want to be able to build up that energy. So if everybody is on one platform, they're chatting, you're seeing your friends join in, you have a little rebuttal thing going on as people are, placing their bids, and, you're competing with a friend. It just gives a whole different dimension to a virtual event. So I would say, gather your entire audience in one place. So you can at least try to bring it like real, right? Just imagine what would happen if you had groups of people joining in different places or have everybody in one room. What's the difference? So
great. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. After doing so many events through the years, and there are so many platform options, it's tempting to use them all. I would recommend think about it, sleep on it, bring it back, and think about where do you want your audience concentrated. So, but Erica, of course, it does both, and it works very well in StreamYard. So, and all the live stream studio and vMix and all the platforms in the first slide, they all do that, of course. So, what's all this cost? What in the earth are you getting yourself into? Sorry, I found the 100 there with the. I thought it was apropos, right? So, okay, complete do-it-yourself. I put a nominal number, $20 to $30. That's about what a month of StreamYard costs, right? If you're wondering what StreamYard costs. But that relies on you doing everything else, and I think that's wonderful if you do. I think that a lot of organizations have enjoyed learning and all, but you do need a crack staff. We don't have enough time today to take you through my hit list of what needs to be done in advance, not to scare you, but certainly if you're taking it on yourself, YouTube's a great resource. and you might want to bring a professional on as at least a consultant to get you halfway there and take it from there. So I'll let you know that I do consult clients that do it themselves. I've had great success, and I've had clients that take it on themselves. It's been a utter disaster. Because the technology is bleeding edge. I won't lie about that. And I'll be the first to admit I'm learning every day. I think it's a good thing. I'm trying new platforms, new tools. We had to configure things for this presentation. We're trying new things, and I think that's exciting. So don't be afraid. Just know that you can do it on your own dime. Here's kind of a half and half model. Pre-producing content can also be very expensive. If you're going to hire videographer teams for a couple days leading into your event, or maybe the month prior. So think about maybe you create your own content. We all have iPhones. We all have Android phones. They actually do a pretty darn good job with image quality. A lot of people own mirrorless and digital SLR cameras. Hell, you may have someone in your organization that has a media background, may have a professional camera. Then you can hire a live stream crew just for the day. And in our market in Southern California, it may be more expensive than your local market, not knowing where all the guests are from. I'm seeing averaging prices between $2 or $3K for a crew. Usually have 2 or 3 persons with all the gear, the live gear, and all the infrastructure to do it. I operate generally in that range. There's a lot of variables, but it also includes a pre-consulting fee, which is a lot of hours in advance, as you'll find out if you haven't done a live event already. Then again, if you just want to hand it off, you're a bigger organization and 5K range plus in many metro markets, hand it off and you'll have a producer just walk you through it. Time is money, right? I certainly appreciate that. I think you always want to hand in the production, but sometimes you need someone just to take it on for you. Just know that a full-time professional is probably pretty busy right now, but don't be scared because there's a lot of people entering the market that do similar things to what I do. Any feedback on what your clients have been spending? Because I know a lot of people want to know, what's this all cost?
Yeah, a lot of them start off thinking that production is going to be expensive because I think that's what they're used to, right? They just start off, hey, it's expensive, and they think virtual events are going to be expensive. But we do keep telling our clients that pick a solution that's right for you. There are a lot of options available, and I know, Paul, you're going to talk about that as well in your bullet number 4. But yes, there are a lot of options, so pick what's right for you, right? You could go with a more DIY solution, but then have somebody in your team who's willing to put in the time and learn the tools. And I really want you to focus on option number 4 because I think that's what we are seeing to be very, very common.
Right. So what is a remote tech director and why is it about $1,000? Again, this is just an average price. I've been a remote tech director just for a couple shows. I specialize more actually going on the ground on site, but I do enjoy being a remote tech director, which is simply, that's what Apta is. Apta is in the back end. She's with Paybee and she is controlling and switching. So I'm here in Santa Barbara. Can I reveal that you're in the Bay Area, right?
Yes, in the Bay Area. Menlo Park, yes.
and we can do a full event from the comfort of my home office, right? Our home office is technically. This goes back to my second slide, which talks about the remote guest software. I do like StreamYard for this. You can switch and you can have up to 10 guests, okay? But if you need more than 10 guests, you're gonna be looking such a integrating platforms such as Zoom, Skype, ones that can handle a lot more people on it. So with that said, I never have more than 10. It's rare I have more than 10 guests. I've had a couple celebrity tributes where I've had like hundreds, but we also have a production budget that would scare you. So Hollywood spends money on that kind of stuff. So, and we have like a truck event.
We've seen more than 10 at pre-parties and post-parties, right? Not during the event. During the event, we've never really seen a need to go over 3-4 guests, right? Because those are the only people who are going live in any case.
Yeah. Most from the nonprofit world, I'm assuming most of the audience here today in Paybee is from the nonprofit world. For fundraising or informational events, I think that's pretty adequate. If you're integrating people on site, that's where professional, a live stream professional comes in because you have to bridge the real world with the remote world. And we can certainly talk about that when we do Q&A, how you have to have monitoring and in-ear monitoring for your talent so there's no echo and such like that. So that's, we've all heard the echo, right? We are now into topic 2. By the way, that was the meat and potatoes, some of the back end technology that exists. Now we're going to talk about hot topic number 2, which is pre-recorded videos, best practices. We'll rip through this. I think this is pretty obvious, but this note's really important. Think widescreen. Not to say that you can't use vertical video, and you're going to get a lot of people recording maybe a testimonial or an interview for you vertically with a phone like this, but widescreen's nice because widescreen is the format that you're going to broadcast in, okay? You can see there's some illustrations there, and you can see on the bottom right, you can see what a vertical video from a phone looks like on a widescreen. You have the black on the side. Maybe you want it. I'm not judging. You could certainly put graphics on the side and use it to your aesthetic prowess, but certainly think widescreen, 16:9, great. And considering the formatting issues, okay, vertical video is my nemesis, but I'm not judging, right? Real quick, let's not spend too much time on this. This is just a good reference chart. You're gonna, in this process, you're gonna hear a bunch of technical jargon from a professional you might hire, or maybe your internal crew that's producing videos. What resolution, what size am I making all this? Believe it or not, today, we're at 720p. We're not 1080 on your account, are we?
I don't know. It's set to auto, and I want to ask you that. I mean, right now you have streaming solutions which kind of do the throttling. So how does it matter, like picking the right solution?
Traditionally, for a live stream, if you look at the green and the purple squares that say high definition 720p and full HD 1080p, notice they're both in 16:9 widescreen formats. Those are the two most common and the resolutions you want to stick to. You're not going to be happy with standard definition. It's going to look all jumbly and all pixelated. 720p is the most common resolutions for streaming. That's the native resolution of Facebook Live, but YouTube can handle 1080 and technically 4K. Please consult a professional if you want to do a 4K stream. That takes a lot of resources and gear to do that. We've done a couple, but they are very technically challenging. So you're in the green square there where it says 720p and 1080p. And also note the two numbers in parentheses next to it, 1280 by 720 and 1920 by 1080 respectively. That's pixels. So when you design your graphics, we're going to get to that next shortly. That's the actual pixel count, 1,280 by 720 pixels, respectfully, that you're going to design any graphics for. Okay, so it's important if you're working with a web designer, graphics designer, that's going to help you get some assets ready for your live stream. Okay, graphics with transparency. If you're going to make the classic lower thirds, where Branson Cortez is, right? This is just a stock image. If you look on the right, you see the checkered board there? That means that the file has transparency. You can see past it. So anytime you want your logo or a lower third with a name and title, you're going to have to design a graphic that goes into your switching software, right? Or tell your professional to do so, so it doesn't cover up the talent. And traditionally, we're using PNG files with transparency. So again, you Google it, it'll come right up. Any standard Canva, Photoshop, Illustrator, editing programs such as Premiere and Final Cut Pro X, they're all going to have that availability. Just know that you have to design with transparencies. Otherwise, if you have full frame graphics, similar to these slides you're seeing, those are full frames, so they don't need transparencies. We're going to work with JPEGs or PDFs or PNGs. Just a note, something to think about. And then last, keep it simple for the web. I just found this photo. I thought it was hilarious. This is for real. This is a real someone streaming setup. Obviously not for a live fundraiser. It looks like a gaming setup, like a vlogger. There's a lot of computers involved in this process. I just thought it was entertaining. I'm sure this gentleman is doing a fabulous job. They got the ring lights, they got the digital SLR cameras for 2 shots. It's beautiful, but you don't need to go, you don't need to go that heavy. You don't need all that gear, but certainly if you see any of our professional setups that are complicated, they do start looking like that. It's a little scary. Don't get scared about that. How many screens
do you use, Paul? How many screens do you typically have in front of you when you?
Yeah, for an average show for a nonprofit fundraiser, I'm going to have my main switching computer, which is I'm going to have a secondary computers, usually laptops, 3 of them on site for graphics, playback, for talent, and for utility. Work in the back end of YouTube. We usually have a redundant computer in the field. It usually stays in a case in case the main one goes down. That hasn't happened, but something to consider. You need a lot of computers. And although we laugh at this photo, that's about how many screens I use. So I guess I shouldn't make fun of it. I just like it that someone's doing it themselves, which I love. The cameras are pointed back at them. So.
We recommend to our client to have 2 screens, right? Especially the ones who are doing DIY, so they can have like 1 screen up where something like StreamYard up, so they can choose which content would go live, and then another screen with, Paybee dashboard is what we're recommending, right? So that they can what content is going to go live for the donors at that time, and we keep them, hey, with these two, and again, if you've practiced enough, you should be able to manage. But obviously, having more people and assistants is always great. But
great. I'm watching the time. I'll address that right now because maybe before we got on this Paybee live stream with you folks, we were discussing that and how do I have my clients use Paybee? Well, usually I have them do their own backend because they made the interface very simple. Okay, but I like to be close to my clients. We wear our masks and we're safe certainly during these times, but I like to keep my clients relatively close to table away where I can actually see their screen, off to the corner if I have to give them some directions and I can kind of just have a line of sight. So that's a great point. So here's the last topic for today, and I think we'll get to some Q&A, is a commonly, not debated, but commonly and ever-changing scenario is what to rehearse and how to rehearse. Okay, I'm unique that most of my clients, at least nonprofits, have me on site with them, as opposed to being a remote technical director, as we discussed earlier. Okay, which means usually I'm doing a full rehearsal, dress rehearsal, earlier in the day if they have an evening event, or early in the morning if they have a noon event. Okay, but that's pretty obvious. You set up the cameras, the lights, the sound. You get your remote guests lined up, or someone to sit in for the remote guest, right? They can't be available for logistics reasons. And you just run through the show a couple times on the ground in a real world location. But what if you are not all together? Okay. This is just a Zoom meeting.
I hope your rehearsals are not like this, Paul. I mean,
yeah,
I have
more
respect if you ran these kind of rehearsals.
We're talking about nonprofits, but I do have a lot of commercial and corporate clients. And then, excuse me if any agencies are also on this call today, but agencies in the middle add multiple screens of Zoom people. So which is all right. I've done my time, 20 years in the industry. So I work with agencies and they feed me a lot of work. It's wonderful, but they bring a lot of people to remote rehearsal. So how do you do it? Well, if you're using Zoom, StreamYard, vMix, Livestream Studio, the best practice is try to do it on the platform that you're going to be using for the real show. A no-brainer, but I think we all have a tendency to go back to Zoom because we're comfortable with it. I think Zoom's great for rehearsal when you're just going through the motions, meaning you're just talking through the run of show, okay? You're just saying, at 5 minutes, Apta's going to be here, and then my friend Steve's going to come on. You can just rehearse it without using the actual platform. I think you intend to switch on. It's very difficult. So that's something I want you to think about. And secondly, setting up dummy accounts, meaning a private or unlisted YouTube stream, Vimeo stream, a Paybee test account, so that you can get comfortable with the interface. And the most important thing is, even if you don't get to rehearse every single minute of your show up front, go through the motions and take that stream from camera to computer to your final platform and watch it all the way through, record it. All these things record in the cloud, right? And see what went wrong and what went right. Do it again, and then do it again. So there's no excuse for not being prepared, in the sense that I know a lot of elements come together last minute, but at least know the technology in advance. It'll make the front half of the content fun.
I mean, just to add that, right? We've seen some clients focus on content during this rehearsal. No, we need the slides to go first, and then we need this speaker, and they spend so much of time doing that. But I do think to make effective rehearsal, especially when your auctioneers on the call, your producers on the call, like go through these transitions, make sure everything works in sync, everybody understands exactly what role they have to play. Right? I think that is crucial in making effective rehearsals. Order of content and all, you can always like tweak your spreadsheet and do that. But yeah, I would say to focus more on transitions and roles.
Yeah, that's right. And great segue. Thank you. How to bring it all together. This is just a couple bullet points with my best practices I'll leave you today. I think we're right on time, about almost 11:40. So we'll go into Q&A here shortly. Hopefully I haven't bored you with the tech mumbo jumbo, but it's so important. If you learn it, it makes the content fun. Here we go. Make and run a show, pretty obvious, but it all is about the run a show. This is your master document. What's a run a show? It's literally just the, sorry, so I don't have an example, but it's just the order of events. We turn on Paybee at this time. We put a slideshow up. Next we have at 12:05, I would say it's an evening event, so 6:05 p.m. we have our MC come on and do the welcome. Then we have a pre-recorded video that highlights some things our organizations have done this year. Boom, 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 boom. That needs to be shared with everyone. I love Google Docs. I know there's other file sharing applications for getting organized. Google Docs seems to be pretty ubiquitous, right? Make a run a show, share it, and keep a running tab on it.
So I'd say this is especially important for virtual events, right? More so than in-person events, because in person you could always walk off the screen and go, discuss something and quickly come back on, and people are okay. Your audience is okay with that. But in a virtual event where they're glued to the screen, you cannot just have nothing play on the screen.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I usually just get a pad of paper, a legal pad. I just make crazy notes on it, but run a show where it all starts. This is your template. This is going to guide you from start to finish when you start working on your fundraiser, maybe 2 months in advance, right? And it's going to change, and that's fine, but type it up for everyone. Same thing with assets. When I say assets, I'm talking about video files, graphics, any digital elements. Again, Google Drive or Dropbox, pretty obvious. I think we all know how to use that. But you're long gone are the days of USB jump drive, though we still use those. I like things in the cloud. So I can see that my client's files in advance and I can test them. That's most important. So not the day of. Think like a linear editor. What on the earth does that mean? Linear, left to right. It's kind of like you run a show. When we go about designing things, we design things as humans non-linearly, right? We jump around to different tasks. We may be setting up the final video before we do the intro video. We may be talking to the final guest before the first guest, but ultimately the show is left to right. It's linear, and you're gonna have to design and make sure it flows one event to the other, okay? And that's gonna come on your run a show. That's why it's gonna be your new Bible, is your run a show. But think linear in a sense. Think like you're the audience. How would you like the show flow to go, right? You can't put your featured items all the way to the top of the show because you might lose them towards the bottom. So you're gonna have to think about how, if your fundraiser an hour, how is that hour staged, okay? That's linear is very important. Don't get sidetracked about thinking about the end when you haven't designed the beginning, okay? Assign roles, and I say assign roles, not if you hire a professional crew, they have their roles. Assign roles internally, I think this is the fun part. Not that you all can't dig in and help, but it's fun to have someone that's gonna be in charge of the camera, someone's gonna be the producer type, the interviewer. I say you're a broadcasting company now. Although I've been streaming for over 10 years, I would argue just in the past 2 or 3 years, this was not all possible. We didn't have this internet tools to bring shows together like this at this level. If you did, you're spending a lot of money, you had broadcast trucks. So you're a broadcasting company now, and have fun with it. I guess that's what I'm getting to at that point. Color code everything. I'm a color code guy. Goes back to the run a show. It just helps people get organized. Be consistent with your color coding. I'm not. I break my own rules on that. When I say color code everything, maybe all your pre-recorded videos you're going to design in the color green, not aesthetically on screen, just in your run a show notes, so that you can keep a good list. And when you're in the show, things get crazy fast. Your eyes need to be able to scan it. Your crew needs to be able to see it. So whoever's making the run a show, you're the color coder now. If you're not hiring a crew, try every button yourself. Yeah. Even if you're hiring a crew, make sure your crew tries every button. I mean, every button in whatever software you're using. You have to know it inside and out, because when that show happens, it happens fast. 1 hour is only like, it's like the Matrix. It's only like 5 minutes of your life. And you need to be able to do this blindfolded. And I don't tell you this to scare you. Just know the technology inside and out, because, where am I going with this? Yeah, it's going to break. It's the internet. All these resources are online, by the way. It's already happened to someone. And if you search that in your favorite browser or YouTube channel, you're going to find some great practices, much more inclusive than I've told you about today. And let's see, it's 11:45. Yeah, have fun, the easy part, right? These events are stressful. I have a lot of clients that are stressed going to the day of. It's my job to reassure, and it's your job to reassure your team that you practiced, you know where the buttons do, you've got the linear run a show and everything's color coded, you'll be fun. And don't worry if there's a little flub, if you miss switch to something glitches at the internet, work right through it, punch right through it, your audience will understand. I think that was my last slide. Yeah, okay, thanks for joining us. There's my name, there's our production service, and I hope to have some questions and not me babbling the whole time. Oh, there, I see a question already. Do you want me to take that?
Yeah.
From Tanya?
Out.
Hey, Tanya.
Tanya.
Yeah, great question. What if you're going to use YouTube, be it standalone on your own website, or you're going to send it to Paybee? If you don't have a YouTube channel, no problem. About half of my clients actually don't have YouTube channels. I have a YouTube channel that I only use for live events, and certainly if you're hiring a team, they're going to have those resources for you. But remember, YouTube channel is free. You can certainly give yourself a couple days. You can certainly create your own channel. Know that it takes 24 hours to activate or have authorized your live streaming abilities on your YouTube channel. So just a heads up, that's why I want you to do it a couple days out. So get one for free or borrow a friend's. Okay, I'm gonna jump to Ron's question. Tanya, hopefully I did that justice. Any advice on coding? Ron, great question. Previously, prior to 2 years, I used to use a lot of hardware coders, expensive black boxes, and there are a lot of low-cost solutions now. I'm mostly using all software-based solutions. StreamYard, what we're on right now, doing this interview right now, does encoding, and it sends it to Facebook, custom RTMP servers, Vimeo, etc., Twitch, whatever you want. All the platforms I showed at the top of the half hour, excuse me, had built-in encoders. If you want to do multicasting, which is multiple destinations, StreamYard has that built in. Another site I've used in the past, I've had great success with, is Restream. I think that's not .com, it's .io, Restream.io. Is great. You send a signal to Restream and then they spread it out to all your platforms. They also have a feature on that allows you, we didn't talk about this, but I've had a show or two that's completely pre-recorded, meaning it's all edited. Restream can play it back from the cloud. StreamYard can too. So. MB4 video codec parameters. This is a reference to what file type should I edit in for playback. Any QuickTime.mov or .mp4, pretty much, I can almost say exclusively work on all platforms I've mentioned. And you'll also want to design for HD, whether you shoot for the 1080 space, 1920 by 1080 pixels, or 720p, which is 1280 by 720 pixels. That's enough resolution. If you want to go big and you have 4K cameras, like the mirrorless ones, and I mean, phones do 4K now, right, too? By all means, but know that for playback, you're going to want to keep that resolution at 1080p or less for 720. Another question, fed through Apta. Oh, great. How much of the show should be pre-recorded versus live, and how to set the right proportion? I like that one. How about in the past year since the pandemic, I would estimate that about 40 to 50% of the show, given it's like an hour show, is pre-recorded. Okay. I like pre-recorded bits that are 5 minutes or less. There could be an excellent reason why you need to go longer than that, because it could be your feature presentation, but just know that pre-recorded videos should be used, I don't know, I would say sparingly. I like the live talent. I like the organic of having the MC, an auctioneer, your staff appear on camera. That's me. We're doing good in time. It's 11:50.
A little different response to that, right? I would,
please.
especially if you're running a virtual event, if there's only one person speaking and there is no back and forth or there is no live activity, then I would recommend pre-recorded, because it's just so much easier to control. You can do multiple takes beforehand. You can control the time that people speak. Sometimes people do, people tend to just speak longer if they're live without realizing. I think a lot of all that can be done beforehand, but definitely agree. If it's an auction that you're running, or if it's an interview like today's, right? Today we're definitely live, everybody. So this, yes, could go live.
Yeah. That's a great point. If you have a featured speaker that's maybe at a complicated location, maybe like an exterior, we haven't talked about shooting indoors versus outdoors, but I've done some live stream event outdoors, live. Those are tricky. I like any live shots being done pre-recorded for multiple takes. There's going to be wind in the garbage truck and the plane overhead. Gives you that flexibility. But if you want to go big, and I like challenge myself, I hope you do too, you can go outside. Note, you also have to have a very good internet connection. I didn't mention this before I get to our next question, but the back end of my streaming systems going to encoding are all on an Ethernet cable, a physical cable. We don't really use Wi-Fi that much as you think, because Wi-Fi can be choppy sometimes and intermittent. There's exceptions to every rule, and Wi-Fi is getting much better, but what you're watching now, this show on StreamYard today, is all hardwired. So at least from my end.
That, right? I know you have multiple lines set up, right? Even your internet, you have redundancy set up, right?
Right.
Talk about
one of the services I offer to my clients is redundant internet connection. So, for example, here in Southern California, our local internet provider for both business and commercial and residential is Cox Communications. We're in a small city here in Southern California, so we have one provider. So I partnered with other fiber optic providers locally here for 2 destinations, and I also have LTE redundant streaming. So we're going to get thick into the weeds about technology, but certainly those resources can be found online, and it's called dual ISP, or internet service provider. The idea is that you've got your stream going up 2 pipes, and if this Cox gives out, it continues down my fiber, vice versa. Okay. So I would argue most people don't have that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say we also tell our clients to have 2 streams going on in parallel, right? So like the YouTube stream as well as something like Twitch. Even Twitch has pretty fantastic results, like close to about 4 seconds. So in case something is good, YouTube, and if you get flagged for copyright issues or anything at all, right? Something happens to YouTube on the day of your event, you can immediately switch to Twitch if you have parallel streams going at the same time.
We didn't talk about famous music, but if you stream famous music, I mean popular music, your Rihanna song in the background, great, I like her too, but YouTube will flag your account. Vimeo, it's a nuanced argument there. Twitch, they'll flag your account for using famous music. The algorithms, the AI scrubs the stream in real time and can flag famous music. So if you're going to kick it off with Bruce Springsteen, that's not a good idea. So what do? You got to use stock music, licensed music, or create your own music. Didn't think about it as a topic today. George Franco, hey George, what's your setup for a hybrid fundraiser when some patrons are in place and others are online? Well, if you're going to do a fundraiser, I'm going to have to toss this question to our friends at Paybee, because they're developing a hybrid model, which I haven't seen before, and I'm really anxious to demo that for them. I'll jump back in. Can you tell us what you're up to?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, the way we see this is, again, what's really important, well, two goals, right? So one is making sure that each audience member feels like the event is designed for them. Like, you never want to be sitting at home watching a monitor and think, hey, I'm just watching a telecast of what's going on in a room somewhere, right? So again, at least at Paybee, we're thinking about how can it feel like the event was made for them. Right? So that's one. And then the second goal that we have is make sure not a single bid or pledge gets missed, especially for a fundraiser. If somebody is clicking at home and the auctioneer didn't even see it, you've missed out on that bid or the pledge. And again, you don't want that to happen, right? So at least at Paybee, the way we're building this is we realize that different types of users consuming the information, whether it's the auctioneer and he or she needs a teleprompter to know the bids. There are the producers who are controlling the control board, as we call it. So they're deciding what goes live. And obviously donors need relevant experiences. So that's how we're thinking about hybrid. Just FYI for everybody on, we are busy building it. It's very close to being ready. Our first set of events are coming up in May, and we'll have something for all of you to demo pretty soon.
Oh, great. Yeah. So George, so I do a lot of hybrid events, but my hybrid events have been more film festivals. So which doesn't have needs of a fundraiser where you may have to have an audience in a building with you on a stage, an auctioneer doing bids, but you want people online. That's a solution that you'll have to come back to Paybee to see. It sounds like in May. How I've handled it is complicated. I've had to, it takes a lot of monitoring for your talent on the stage. For example, they have to see information about the bids coming in from a site like Paybee or another auction site. So we set up confidence monitors at the bottom of the stage or by their podium so they can see data feeds coming in, because they're looking around the room in a fundraiser, looking for a paddle raise, looking for a hand up or a paddle, a paddle with a number on it. But they also need to put their attention to the data streams. So it's really a question, what your auctioneer is experiencing, your availability to practice with them, a hybrid model. Paybee is doing a more integrated solution that I've heard about. I'm excited to try it, where they're using technologies such as your attendees' mobile phones in the building with you, and then of course people are at home on the Paybee interface bidding, trying to make it seamless. So stay tuned. Stay tuned for that, right? Doing good. Can I take Ron's question here? Ron had a great question, and he asked, Ron Curry, how you doing? Do you have any data on attention span of attendees? How long do they hang around? Yeah. Yeah, I do have data. I'm always watching how many people are online. If you get 100% retention rate for an hour, you're a superstar. But I've been able to get 80 to 90% attention span for my clients. And that, again, think linear. Think if you're sitting down in front of your computer after work and you're logging on to your organization's fundraiser, maybe you're having a beer, you're having a drink, the kids are getting crazy, you need to set things out in small 5-minute blocks or less. If you follow that rule, that's the best analytics I've had, is short sections equal retained audience. It's when you get that 10 or 20 minute talking head, you start to lose people. And that's not to take away from the talent. They could be the most amazing talent. Okay, so that's the best example. But I'm telling my clients, keep your events under an hour if it's a fundraiser. Some of my corporate events do go much longer, or sometimes they go 3 days because they're like a conference. That's a whole nother animal. If Ron Curry follows up, please, yeah.
Close to about 300-400 events just live, because we're always watching the back end, right? I'd say we see maximum number of people at like the 3rd or 4th minute in, like after the event starts. It's like first couple of minutes, people are just finding the link to join and kind of getting in. So you probably have the best attendance at that point. And again, going back to have a good tight run of show, right? Have back-to-back content lined up. Don't lose their attention. And again, we keep telling our charities, finish your fundraising portions early, right? If you have a whole bunch of speeches and all those things, I mean, you will lose audience because they had to go take care of their kid, or, they had to go get dinner, all those things. So finish your fundraising early. Real world, yes. And then, yes, have great content, have entertainment. People are sitting with a glass of wine and enjoying it. And they could fall off or not. But we've seen amazing retention rate at most of our events, over 90%, I'd say, all the way up until the end of the hour as well.
Yeah, people are hanging in there.
Yeah, they're actually enjoying it.
People are hanging in there. It's good. It's good. It's good.
I was really surprised. Yeah.
There's one last question. I'm going to go, Ron, part 2 real quick. How far into the event do you recommend going to an auctions and pledging similar? The 75% mark, 3/4 in. It's like a movie, right? First act, second act, and the beginning of your third act is when I like to see my audience. You wind and dine them for 20 minutes, half an hour, and then you get into that. I could be wrong about this, but this is how we've been doing it, and I've had great success for all our clients. I've really amazed at people's giving, donors giving through the pandemic and helping out all these MPOs. People have surprised me, so that's good. Last question. Please go ahead, please.
And yeah, I'll ask you my last question, and if you're available to hang out, we can take some more questions. But my question was, give me an example of things going wrong at an event. I mean, yes, you plan for every kind of contingency and contingency is set up, but give me an example of what went wrong and how you handled it.
The internet. At one of my locations, so at the beginning of the onset of the pandemic, we had March of last year. It's been a year, folks. It's been over a year now, which is wild. In April, in Santa Barbara, California, comes Earth Day. The original, well, there's a Bay Area Earth Day. Sorry if anyone from the Bay Area is joining us, but the official continuous one is from Santa Barbara, California. It's a big thing here, and they couldn't do the Earth Day, so we did it live stream one day. We're actually doing 3 days this year. It's coming up next month. So we had top-notch talent. We have a lot of musicians and actors that live here in Santa Barbara, and we had Kenny Loggins, wonderful talent here at Santa Barbara. Everyone remembers him, but he's still firing off some great music, and he did a nice set for us. The end of Earth Day, and of course, at the building I was in, down the street at the end of the block, I'm not going hard on Cox Communications, but the truck was out and they shut the line down for maintenance. I didn't know there was a truck coming down, and this is before we had the redundancy for the dual internet at this particular location, the dual internet stream. Okay. The good news is we were using a platform, Livestream Studio specifically, that had a buffer on it, and a big buffer programmed through some switches I have, and the knockout of the internet was only a few minutes, and it kind of crunches performance. It made it kind of glitchy, and I was kind of bummed about it, but the stream continued, and he was a great sport about it, and he played a little longer, so I don't know. It's usually the internet. It's the internet. We've lost remote guests. I'm not going to name any platforms. They all have their quirks. That's why you need to press every button in advance. Anyways, that's one quick story. I don't know if it was that horrible, but we do our best to build in redundancy so that we don't have horror shows, and we've never not had an event finish, meaning it didn't finish. So I'm going to bite myself in the butt on that one, but we're going to continue practicing.
Yeah, I just remembered you said you're going to talk about earpieces, and so again, do you recommend them, especially for the scenarios we're talking about? And again, if you recommend them, what kind of information needs to flow between you and the auctioneer, for example, or you and the charity team?
Great question. Yeah, for the auctioneer or any talent that's on camera with you, okay, this really only applies to when you're filming on site, on location with your talent, because if they are on Zoom or StreamYard or Skype, they already have the audio coming and going, right? But what about in the field when you may have your talent on a professional camera here, right? They may need to do an interview or interact with a remote guest. That's when you need to think about how you're going to do the audio in ear, because if you don't, a speaker playing the event would echo and return through their microphone, okay? So if Zoom, for the interview or as the platform, we really like, again, AirPods or the Sony or the Bose or whatever brand you like that works well with your computer. It provides the microphone at the tip and the audio. So that's how I'm listening to the show right now. Okay, so you don't hear any echo, hopefully, or I'm eating my words, right? Or the classic corded. Maybe not choose white ones from AirPod, maybe Apple brand. Maybe choose something black, and just you can't go wrong with a classic in your earpod. Okay, because anything you play out loud on a speaker is going to come through the talent mic, and it's going to do a loop back. So we do in-ear monitoring.
Oh, that's great. Awesome. Thank you so much. I think this brings us, we've gone a little over, but thank you, Paul. This was amazing. I learned so much today.
I learned so much. I'm figuring things out. Every day I do these.
Thank you for sharing your time and your experience
Thanks,
with us. Everybody, if you have questions, Paul is amazingly helpful. Feel free to reach out to him, and he'll definitely answer your questions. So thank you so much for coming. We appreciate it. Thank you, everybody.
Good seeing you.
Bye-bye.